membership have selflessly stepped up to work with NEPPA staff to review and update content, ensuring that our workforce continues to remain top-notch within the utility space, including and especially in all aspects of safety. Our next focus: how can we adapt augmented and virtual reality to enhance both our existing and prospective training offerings? Cue the sci-fi music. The political and regulatory landscape has become incredibly volatile. Between differing views on the path to a decarbonized grid of the future and the multitude of stakeholders influencing critical policy, the Advocacy and Reporting Committee must work harder than ever. With an impressive committee roster, both in depth and breadth, they are able to see the whole picture and to advocate effectively on behalf of our ratepayers and communities, all the while advancing the public power mission. Our mutual aid program continues to operate second to none, a secret weapon in some respects, but only appearing as a secret, arguably due to the humbleness of those involved. From the committee chair to the regional coordinators, these are the folks that stand at the ready. They are committed to making sure that when that call comes in on New Year's Eve in the middle of the night, it gets answered. So let's give a round of applause to those folks. They know who they are. NEPPA has made great strides in supporting the program that Bonnie will cover shortly. So while 2020 has been challenging, one for the record books, we will come out on top. Through adversity, we grow stronger. And NEPPA has wholeheartedly embraced that philosophy with the support and engagement of a tremendous staff and membership. We will continue to use our 2020 hindsight, not to dwell on the challenges of the past, but to perpetually sharpen and recalibrate our vision, ensuring that the lens we look into the future with is in fact 2020. And with a refreshed strategic plan, we are armed and dangerous to do just that. Just remember, a ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are built for. Thank you all for an incredible year, and I want you to have a safe, happy, and healthy holiday season. It is now my privilege to introduce McGuire Whitney, who will share a legislative update from the nation's capital. McGuire Whitney provides government relations, policy analysis, strategic counsel, and communication services to community-owned electric systems, joint action agencies, and state and regional associations of municipal, cooperative, and public utility districts. McGuire Whitney's specialization allows them to be NEPPA's eyes and ears in Washington, to dive deep into federal, legislative, and regulatory challenges and opportunities faced by local governments, and to focus on the people and the issues that matter most to public power. Our presenters today are Elizabeth Whitney, Managing Principal, and Emily Richardson, Senior Associate. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody see and hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, hello. I am trying to figure out how to share my screen, and I think that I'm doing so now. Is that right?
We got you.
Okay, great. So I know most of you. I'm Elizabeth Whitney, Managing Principal of McGuire Whitney. Been working with NEPPA for about 10 years through our firm and a predecessor firm. Emily Richardson is with me today as well. She joined our firm in August after several years on Capitol Hill. We obviously like to refresh our connections with Capitol Hill by bringing on a fresh set of eyes, folks who have been working for Congress more recently than folks like myself. More than 10 years ago, I was on Capitol Hill. So Emily's been helping us with a lot of the analysis of election 2020, and that's really what we're going to focus on today. But I did want to give a few highlights of what NEPPA has done this year. Most of our focus at the congressional level has been on COVID-19 and the utility response to that, as well as managing the congressional response to that. NEPPA has been active in reaching out to its delegation, letting them know about statewide and voluntary disconnect moratoriums in an effort to prevent some kind of national moratorium on utility disconnects. We've also shared information about what utilities are doing to protect their workers and customers. We asked for additional LIHEAP funding, supported an effort by APPA to create a new forgivable loan program, and NEPPA carried out its first virtual fly-in this fall, talking about a set of issues that we've been advocating on for some time, but this year set up a formal resolutions process to make sure that we have consensus among the NEPPA membership and particularly the board and buy-in for the positions on which we're doing advocacy. So we had a busy year, but of course, everything in Washington was eclipsed by the election that made it so difficult to get anything done other than COVID aid, and then made even that difficult as well. So I want to start with the presidential race results, although I think everybody is sort of familiar with where we're at this point. Talk about the 117th Congress. I'll turn it over to Emily for that, and she'll go over some changes to the NEPPA delegation, members of the New England delegation who may have changed or moved into leadership roles. And then we'll talk a little bit about the agenda going forward, what the challenges might be, and what we still don't know yet. So this is how the Electoral College looked on election day / election week in 2020. And I just want to point out this map sort of gave an early demonstration that Joe Biden was going to do what he needed to do to win the Electoral College, which is to take back the Great Lakes states that President Trump won in 2016 that had previously been expected to be in the Democratic column. And I do want to point out that on election day and into election week, it did look like President Trump was leading in the states of Pennsylvania and Georgia, which Pennsylvania in particular, everybody knew was going to be a decisive, if not the decisive state, largely because of a huge influx in early and mail-in voting, which couldn't actually be counted until after election day. So President Trump certainly had some concerns about those votes coming in late, the vote counts changing over time, and President-elect Biden ultimately did prevail in both Pennsylvania and Georgia, surprisingly, due to those mail-in ballots, something that Democrats had really pushed while Republicans encouraged their voters to vote on election day. So kind of interesting, but we did see days later, Biden clinching the Electoral College with Pennsylvania. You see he's won back those Great Lakes states. And so the sort of bellwether swing states of Florida and Ohio going for the president, but Pennsylvania being decisive. Georgia and North Carolina not called until later, Arizona in some cases not called till later, but Arizona flipping for the first time in quite some time to vote for a Democrat for president. So this is an interesting result. You see an incredible division, an enduring division between folks who are on the coasts versus folks who are living in the middle of the country. And the verdict is that voters are divided. This is not a mandate for President-elect Biden. It is not a repudiation of President Trump, nor is it obviously an endorsement of President Trump. We're as divided as we can be, and even states that allowed their electoral colleges to divide both did so, including Maine in New England. So we are going into a new year and a new Congress with an enormously divided electorate, and a very intensely divided electorate, particularly given the turnout. This was record turnout for both candidates. President Trump received the second most votes for any presidential candidate in history, right behind Joe Biden at #1. So an incredibly interesting election season. The president has not conceded, but his pathways to challenge the election results in key states are really dwindling. He's not been successful in getting courts to take up some of his legal challenges, has not alleged with specificity what kind of voter fraud may have taken place that would necessitate a recount of votes or a tossing out of certain votes. So we do now expect that Joe Biden will be not only president-elect, but will take office in January. He's now actively transitioning and naming folks to his transition team that we will keep NEPPA apprised of as those continue. No major nominations in the energy and environment world yet, but certainly on the economic team and in personal office capacities. So we are well underway with the transition, but obviously the most important determinant of what President Biden's agenda will be is the role of Congress and what legislation might be able to get through. And so in the same way that a blue wave did not fully materialize for presidents, so it was in the House and Senate, where a sort of I want to say it's pretty clear that pollsters did not accurately gauge the depth and breadth of support for the president, and he really buoyed Republican candidates up and down the ballot. So I'm going to turn it to Emily Richardson to talk about the House and Senate results, and then I'll be back to talk about what comes next. So Emily?
Thanks, Elizabeth. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to run through the Senate and House results as they stand right now and talk about what some of this means for the agenda in the upcoming 117th Congress. So as many of you probably know, the Senate is currently still held by Republicans. The results were somewhat of a surprise given the polling going into the election. Again, we feel like this feeds into the idea that pollsters really underestimated the support for President Trump, which bolstered turnout from Republicans, and they were able to keep many of the states that they were actually projected to lose, with a particular surprise in Maine, part of the delegation, where Susan Collins was looking like she was very likely to lose her seat, and she managed to keep a hold of it. So right now we have a current breakdown of 48 Democrats and 50 Republicans, and all eyes and all money are definitely closely looking at these two seats in Georgia, where there's going to be a special election in early January that's going to really determine a lot of the agenda in the next couple of years. Right now, we strongly expect those two seats to remain Republican, and so we expect the Senate next year to remain in Republican control as well. But, you know, we're leaving room there because it's definitely hard to predict where this will go. And Georgia was somewhat of a surprise this year in that it did go for Joe Biden. So we're keeping an eye there, but expecting the Senate to remain in Republican control. In terms of Senate leadership, we're not expecting any changes there. Mitch McConnell is going to continue being majority leader if the Republicans hold the Senate, and Chuck Schumer will be the Democratic leader. And because of this dynamic where you have a Republican Senate and a Democratic administration, it's definitely going to determine a lot of what the congressional agenda and what Biden's administration's agenda is going to be. I think there was maybe a lot of hope for some more ambitious climate legislation going into the 117th Congress, and Joe Biden certainly made a lot of campaign promises in this area, but I think he's not going to be able to lean on the Senate or lean on Congress quite as much to achieve some of those goals, so we may see some more focus on executive actions. But I think, you know, we're leaving some room for bipartisan work as well. We try to be optimists in Washington and like to believe that we'll be able to get some key energy legislation done next year. Right now, we do have both chambers, the House and the Senate, with energy packages that they're trying to resolve the differences. Obviously, if that doesn't get tied up this year, that will be of high priority, probably on both sides, going into the new Congress. So switching over to the House now. Again, results were not quite what we expected. The Democrats were projected to possibly expand their majority, and that did not happen. According to the Washington Post, they, Republicans netted 9 seats as of right now, and 4 races are still too close to call, actually. Again, as a result of just the very, very high volume of mail-in ballots this year because of the pandemic. So we're still keeping an eye on that, but the Democrats will maintain control of the House. So we'll have a Democratic majority on the House side and likely a Republican majority on the Senate side. And in terms of the dynamic in the House, again, we are expecting the leadership structure to remain relatively stable. Nancy Pelosi was voted by her caucus to once again serve as Speaker in the next Congress. She did commit last Congress to only serve 2 more terms as Speaker. So if she holds by this commitment, which was informal, this would be her last term as Speaker of the House. And on the Republican side, we are going to see Kevin McCarthy leading his caucus once again. And finally, just another dynamic to keep in mind, because there is such a narrow margin at this point, the House does appear to be in play for 2022. I think it's going to be tricky navigation for House Democrats. There's certainly a lot of questions and frustration floating around within the caucus in terms of why the election turned out the way that it did, and expect some of these issues to kind of bleed into the next Congress and make for a very complicated agenda. Let's see. So now I'm going to turn to discussing what this means for NEPPA's delegation. There have been a couple of key changes that I want to highlight, some very exciting. So as I touched on earlier, Susan Collins did manage to keep her seat. So I just wanted to highlight that since she was expected to lose her race. So she will still be in the delegation. And Joe Kennedy is not going to be coming back as he ran for Senate and gave up his House seat. So we have a new member, Jake Auchincloss. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. So he'll be a freshman member that we'll want to get to know and establish a relationship with. And then finally, just some new leadership positions within the delegation that should be very exciting for the next 2 years. Rosa DeLauro just yesterday won the vote within the Democratic caucus to serve as House Appropriations Chair. So she will be chair of that committee for the next 2 years at least. And Representative Catherine Clark was also elected Assistant Speaker. She's replacing Ben Ray Lujan, who left the House to run for Senate. And this is the 4th highest position in the House. So we do have some exciting figures and good positions for you guys. So that's going to be neat going forward. I'll turn it back over to you, Elizabeth.
Great, thanks so much, Emily. And you know, just to finish up, because our time is limited and I want to make sure that we have time for some questions. Just in terms of the agenda that's going to be available to President-elect Biden, you know, as Emily mentioned, there was some thought that ambitious climate legislation was on deck. The House has obviously been teeing up some bold packages, you know, Green New Deal got a lot of press last year and the year before, but hasn't quite materialized into legislative text. But there have been a lot of discussions about a clean energy standard, a new Clean Air Act amendments that would create a cap and trade bill. So the House is probably still going to act on some of those, but given the Senate control remaining in Republican hands, most likely, we don't think that that will become law anytime soon. We also have the COVID-19 crisis still commanding a lot of attention, even if there is some kind of a deal reached with an end-of-year package. The crisis will continue, and there'll be other things for Congress to turn its attention to: vaccine distribution, et cetera. So the agenda is going to call for bipartisanship. One of the the challenges to that, and maybe it's also an unknown, is the relationship between President-elect Biden and Mitch McConnell. These are two gentlemen who have worked together in the past, worked well together in the past. They know one another, they were colleagues. I think there is a chance that these two men could sit down, maybe not face to face during the pandemic, but could have a conversation that says, look, let's put some things aside, let's focus on what we can agree on, and let's some bipartisan deals. Even after 15 years in Washington, D.C., I'm not so jaded to think that that is impossible, but some things that'll have to happen first. Of course, President Trump needs to feel like he's had his day in court. He needs to concede and feel like he has exhausted his legal options. I think in order for Mitch McConnell to want to sit down and have that conversation with Joe Biden. I also think we need to confirm the results of the Senate. January 5th, 2021, we will most likely know the results of those Senate races. I think President-elect Biden is waiting for that result in order to reach out to Mitch McConnell. But once those two things sort of conclude, I think that the relationship and the dynamic between these two individuals could really shape a lot of how the next 2 years look with respect to, are we going to get back to bipartisan lawmaking and cut some deals, or are we going to have 2 more years of gridlock and being at one another's throats until the voters get another chance to potentially come together and put one party into power. So I remain very hopeful that bipartisanship can prevail, but we shall see, and we'll be watching certainly in January for signs of life. But with that, I'll see if there are any questions. Obviously, we didn't go too deep into details on the legislative side, focus more on the election, but happy to answer questions on anything that may have been moving through Congress this year, prospects going forward, or stuff more on the political side. I see a question in the chat box from Vinny Rigucci that says, with the departure of Congressman Kennedy, who do you see as the delegation quarterback on energy? Certainly in the Senate, Senator Markey has really solidified himself as an environmental leader, if not the environmental leader, particularly from the activist perspective, from the progressive side. There are other members that actually sit on the Energy Committee, including Senator Sanders, who may be able to devote more attention to this issue now that he's not running for president himself. And it does look likely that he will remain in the Senate because of the razor-thin margin. There has been some speculation that he would go into the administration in some capacity, but with the closely divided Senate, it's less likely that any of the Democratic senators will give up their seats to move into the administration. On the House side, obviously the loss of Congressman Kennedy is felt most acutely. He was one of only 2 or 3 members on the Energy and Commerce panel, had really dug into our issues on capacity markets in particular. And so that's certainly a loss. He is someone who could resurface in the administration, however, as is Eric Finns, our favorite staffer in his office. But when we did our virtual fly-in in this fall, we did have some great conversations with other members of the delegation who are interested in stepping up and maybe filling that void. In particular, Congresswoman Custer and her staffer, who she sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee. He has been particularly engaged, especially since that trip, really wanting to dive in and engage with NEPPA and talk about how to solve some of these problems and how to make sure not-for-profit utilities are taking care of with COVID and with LIHEAP, et cetera. So we were all very encouraged by that conversation. And I think as far as the House side goes, we'll probably end up going to her more often, as well as Congressman Welch, who's always been a strong partner for us, and his staffer as well. So any other questions? I don't know if I can see if people are raising their hands, but happy to answer questions if people just want to take themselves off mute. I want to make sure I can relinquish hosting duties.
I would like to thank you, Elizabeth,
Sure.
I don't know if you can hear me, but I'd like to thank you for all of the work you do for us all year long in Washington. It is a great help to us to keep on track with the things that matter to our members. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate you being with us this morning so that our members can hear an update of what's really going on down in DC.
Sure.
We wish you a happy holiday.
Happy to.
All of the folks at McGuire Whitney, thanks for the work that you do. Also like to thank Justin for opening us up this morning. Nice job. And let me know when we're ready. So a couple of little housekeeping things. Thanks for zooming in today. And for those of you who are here live, yes, we do have a live audience. Thank you for being here. I'm Bonnie Biocchi, the Executive Director of NEPPA, and I'm excited to be here. And we're going to begin our award presentation. Naturally, we would really love to be able to award everyone and honor everyone in person, but with the pandemic, that was not possible. So we've put together a presentation showing you who the award winners are, and we hope that you will enjoy that. Our first award is the Commissioner Service Award. This award is presented to commissioners who have served 3 full terms or at least 10 years at a member utility. This year's recipient is Mr. Charles W. Bonfante from the Peabody Municipal Light Plant. Commissioner Bonfante has served on the Peabody Municipal Lighting Commission since 2010 and was recently re-elected to continue serving through 2026. Commissioners play an important role in keeping the public in public power. And we thank Mr. Charles Bonfante for his dedication and commitment. Peabody is lucky to have you. Our next awards are the Carol A. Tracy Customer Service Awards. NEPPA's Carol A. Tracy Award is presented to employees of a NEPPA member utility who deliver outstanding service to their customers, either through sustained exceptional performance in serving their customers or the development of new and innovative programs to meet customer needs. We are fortunate today to have 3 outstanding winners of this award. Our first recipient is Tiffany Derry, Shrewsbury Electric Light and Cable Operations. Tiffany is a longtime member of Selco's customer service team. She is held in very high regard by her team for her willingness to pitch in wherever and whenever needed. Her nomination says it all. In the past year, Tiffany stepped up to play an integral role in training multiple new staff members and launched a new business marketing strategy. Tiffany's ownership of business sales and consistent follow-through on all of her assigned tasks makes all of our jobs easier. She is a key member of our team and plays a pivotal part in the overall success of our organization. Here at NEPPA, we could not agree more. Congratulations, Tiffany, for demonstrating the principles of excellence in customer service, and we are delighted to honor you with the Carol A. Tracy Award for Customer Service. Our next recipient is Amy Fisher from the Ashburnham Municipal Light Department. In August of 2020, Amy celebrated 10 years of proudly serving the customers of AMLP. Providing excellent customer service to their customers is essential to AMLP, and Amy is an integral part of the customer service process. Her nomination stated the following: going above and beyond to assist the customer, Amy is a familiar face and voice that our customers have grown to recognize and trust. Oftentimes, Amy will need to correspond with the same customer multiple times, whether it's setting up a new account, scheduling a final bill on a property, or troubleshooting the reason that there is an increase in a customer's bill. These customers become so comfortable with Amy that in the office, we like to say that Amy has another new friend. As a dedicated member of the team, Amy has made the commitment to serve the AMLP customers, and a responsiveness to their needs is unparalleled. Amy is a tremendous asset to the AMLP team, and we are happy to present her with the Carol A. Tracy Customer Service Award. Our final recipient of the Carol A. Tracy Award goes to Diane Ryan from the Danvers Electric Division. Diane has devoted almost 20 years to the Danvers Electric Division. Starting as a confidential administrator, Diane worked her way up to become an engineering tech, due in large part to her outgoing, positive attitude and her true desire to help Danvers customers. A colleague shared this. Anytime a resident has an issue with their service, Diane is the first person to go to because of her shining attitude and her wealth of knowledge. She knows how our utility operates inside and out, and whether it is a trouble call, new service, or just helping somebody to pay their bill, Diane knows how to handle it and gets the customer what they need. And she always does it with a smile. NEPPA is pleased to honor Diane's years of service, her commitment to the ideals of customer service, and her can-do attitude by presenting her with the Carol A. Tracy Award for Customer Service. In order to make our awards not continue to talk only about awards, we're going to skip now and do our year in review. This is my snapshot of what we've accomplished this year, and I hope that you will enjoy some of the pictures that we are going to put up for you. I'm delighted to be here this morning as we celebrate the accomplishments of this past year and look ahead to 2021. I'm sure we're all looking forward to turning the page on this calendar year. Currently, our membership consists of 78 public power systems serving over 714,000 meters and producing over 11.6 gigawatt-hour sales. Public power employs more than 2,500 people throughout the 6-state region who work hard to keep the lights on for more than 2 million people. Our 38 corporate and 114 associate members help provide valuable information and services and offer expertise in a wide range of public power needs. This year, we were fortunate to welcome 23 new members to our organization. I'd like to take a moment now to thank our industrious executive committee and board. Year over year, they invest countless hours to ensure that NEPPA grows and thrives. Their vision, their leadership, and their commitment make NEPPA the premier trade association that it is. Their work on the strategic plan this past year will set NEPPA on a course to accomplish several key goals over the next 3 years, as Justin outlined a little earlier. So what defined 2020? Well, of course, the top news story was a global pandemic, which wreaked havoc and interrupted life as we know it for everyone, including all of us at NEPPA. In late March, we joined thousands of others in the workforces across the country and went remote. For the next 3 months, we invested in technologies, learned to Zoom, and revamped our services to accommodate this new paradigm. Phrases like, "Can you hear me now? Please put your phones on mute. My internet is unstable," and "Hey, I love your background," became the new business speak. With the ever-changing protocols, we learned to wear our masks, keep our distance, sanitize our hands, which of course we no longer use for greeting one another. This presented challenges to our trainers and certainly our events, but adapt we did. With so much information to digest and share, we created a COVID resource center on our website and worked closely with our national associations to ensure that you had the most current and up-to-date pandemic protocols and procedures. Of course, our biggest effort was invested in retooling our training and our programming to deliver as many programs as possible virtually. We're proud that our trainers were up to the challenge. In 2020, we had the good fortune of welcoming 2 additional trainers to support our ongoing growth. By bringing on Tom Succi, we took our metering program to the next level, created a new basic electricity and math program, and added another layer of technical expertise to our training. And with the addition of Scott Larson, we provided tremendous strong line worker experience and supervisory knowledge to our line worker apprentice program. We're very happy to have these 2 individuals join our team. Our veteran trainers really stepped up this year to learn new technologies and provide the requisite at-your-site technical training our members need. Thanks to Linda Calderiso, Pete Crowley, Dan Flynn, Lou Gabriel, Bill Hessen, who heads our New York effort, Dennis Regale, Tim Richardson, and of course, the legendary Director of Training, Steve Segovia. They have done yeoman's work this year to deliver the training you need while observing the myriad travel restrictions and the various pandemic protocols that became standard operating procedure. Our apprentice line worker program is more robust than ever. With 122 apprentices enrolled in the Littleton headquarters and another 64 enrolled in our New York program, we are diligently preparing the workforce of tomorrow. Some of our classes, in fact, have become so large that this year we scheduled 2 trainers to help while out in the training field. Next week, we will graduate 23 apprentices from Littleton, and last month, we graduated 11 apprentices from the New York program. To further support our training and education goals, we created a subject matter expert team, which thoroughly reviewed, revised, and developed our advanced line worker, crew leadership, and Substation 1 programs, and reviewed and helped develop our new metering program. Our hardworking Education Development Committee is constantly assessing industry needs, identifying current best practices, and helping to establish state-of-the-art programming. So a big thank you to all of you who are helping us do this. Due to COVID-19, our team adapted more than a dozen of at-your-site training modules for virtual consumption. We held several GM and GF roundtables virtually, created a new HR roundtable, and kicked off our IT roundtable to keep connected. These were all done virtually. We converted our Violence in the Workplace series to virtual, along with our pump course, and we want to thank our membership for supporting these efforts with your attendance and your patience as we worked through some technical difficulties. NEPPA's Benevolent Fund is a source of pride for all of us. Established to continue the tradition of providing support and resources in times of need, all funds raised and received are dispersed to public power employees or their families who are undergoing financial difficulties due to personal injury, illness, or even death. Thank you to all who donated through our annual appeal or through the purchase of our new merchandise. This year, because we were not able to hold our annual conference, we were also unable to host our Benevolent Fund golf tournament. But that didn't stop a couple of Public Power's most stalwart supporters who created the Lobsterland Golf Tournament to support the fund. I'd like to thank the Lobsterland Tournament Committee, comprised of Mark Kelly, Dan Folding, Mike Cloutier, Nick Lawler, and Scott Edwards, who chaired the committee. Sponsors of the event included Energy New England, PLM Engineering, Wesco, First Time Associates, Shamrock Power, Power Sales Group, Duncan and Allen, EL Flowers, Milton Cat, Hubble, and Milwaukee Power Tools. By all accounts, it was a tremendous day, and the event raised $4,221 for the fund. That is an amazingly generous gift. Currently, the fund stands at almost $34,000. Within the past year, we have dispersed $4,000 to families in need. Our dedicated advocacy and reporting committee continues to provide great value. 25 members of NEPPA participated in the APPA legislative rally in Washington, D.C. On our agenda were rising transmission costs, the board capacity market, climate initiatives, pole top attachments, hydropower relicensing, and advanced municipal bond refunding. In the spring, we advocated for assistance for direct pandemic-related aid for our industry and urged our members to support an additional increase in LIHEAP funding. In accordance with NEPPA's government relations plan and with the help of McGuire Whitney, we implemented a new resolution adoption process to pursue our legislative and regulatory advocacy and formally adopted resolutions on the capacity market, hydro licensing, pole attachments, and transmission for this coming legislative cycle. In September, we held our first virtual DC fly-in, which encompassed 2 very busy and successful days pursuing our legislative agenda and providing input on the 4 resolutions that the Board of Directors had adopted in July. Mutual aid continues to be critically important to our organization. The new mutual aid agreement went into effect in March, and nearly 100% of our utilities have signed on to support this program. In 2020, NEPPA Mutual Aid was activated on 7 occasions, resulting in 12 calls for mutual aid. In addition to the microburst in Groton, Hurricane Isaias greatly impacted our region and accounted for 6 of those 12 calls. 39 responding utilities provided 46 trucks, 5 diggers, and 3 crews to ensure rapid storm restoration efforts were successful across the region for all of these events. We are fortunate to have an active and engaged mutual aid committee chaired by Nick Lawler. I'd like to acknowledge the work of our committee and our regional coordinators who jump into action to arrange the assistance that is needed when it's needed. And this year, we made a significant investment in a new software notification system developed by VOC that will better enable us to track and report on mutual aid operations. I'd like to thank the Mutual Aid Software Subcommittee and the software implementation team for their hard work ensuring this new system will be in place for the storm season ahead. I'd also like to thank Nick for running a roundtable for general managers and general foremen when this first was unveiled. NEPPA is lucky to have a great team toiling behind the scenes to make it all work. I want to publicly acknowledge our dedicated and hardworking staff, Elizabeth Bailey, Colleen Del Signore, Jackie Campbell, Wendy Esch, Sarah Braze, and Steve Sokobi for their exceptional work and attention to detail. Although there wasn't much to cheer about this year, we did welcome Sarah's new baby, Isabel, to the NEPPA family. In closing, I want to thank you, our members, for your commitment to this organization. Your support allows us to provide quality programming, exceptional training and education, effective advocacy, and mutual aid that is there when you need it and goes the extra mile. We have an enthusiastic pool of volunteers who serve on our many committees, a board that faithfully executes on the strategic plan, and a staff that goes above and beyond to serve the needs of all of our members. We are certainly fortunate, and I thank all of you for helping NEPPA be the organization it is. Ready? Now we turn to the Francis Skip Wiley Individual Achievement Award, given to an employee of NEPPA Utility who demonstrates a professional commitment to public power through personal development and participation in NEPPA's educational programs. This year's winner is Wei-Jun Lee, Braintree Electric Light Department. Wei-Jun is a familiar face at NEPPA. As a member of the subject matter expert team, he played a very active role in the revitalization of NEPPA's substation program. Wei-Jun is also an involved participant in our pump program and does an outstanding job serving on the Mutual Aid Committee as a regional coordinator. His nomination extols his virtues, saying, Wei-Jun has been and continues to be a major contributor to the success of Braintree Electric, which has experienced maintaining the highest reliability for our transmission, substations, and electric distribution systems. Wei-Jun is a valuable team player at Bell and an asset to the committees here at NEPPA. It is a privilege to honor Wei Jun with the Francis Skip Wiley Individual Achievement Award. Congratulations, Wei Jun. Our next awards are the Distinguished Service Awards, given in recognition of individuals or organizations that have gone above and beyond providing services to a NEPPA utility. This year, we have 5 recipients of this award. Our first recipient is Jeff Cady, General Manager of Chicopee Electric Light. Jeff is nearing his 32nd year with Chicopee Electric Light, having begun his career as a power resource analyst. He progressed through the ranks to become the power resource manager, the assistant manager, and then became the general manager, a role he has held since 2005. Jeff has committed his professional life to the issues that matter to public power. He has served as president of MEAN and was also on the board for MWIC for many years. His service to NEPPA is impressive indeed, having served as a member of the board for 8 years. He was a key contributor to the Mutual Aid Committee in its formative years, and this year served on the Mutual Aid Software Subcommittee. He's been an active member of the E&O Committee and has brought great value through his work and chairmanship of the Education Development Committee. Jeff served as vice president of the association and for the past 2 years took on the role of president, helping to shape both the previous and current strategic plans. It is with respect and gratitude that we honor Jeff Cady with the Distinguished Service Award. Next up is Vincent Rigucci from Energy New England. Vin Rigucci's name is synonymous with in the know. As a valuable part of E&E's team, Vin goes above and beyond to keep the utilities he works with informed and up to date on a wide variety of legislative issues. His nomination details his work, saying, "In a year that COVID-19 seemed to stop us in our tracks, Vin Rigucci and E&E Strategies was instrumental in assisting municipal light plants as they navigated through this pandemic. Vin's daily updates and guidance throughout the pandemic helped ease the minds of everyone. Working collaboratively with me, Vin has been instrumental in orchestrating the MLP Clean Energy Bill and is a willing contributor in NEPPA's legislative fly-ins. With his extensive knowledge and his contacts, Vin brings tremendous value to our congressional visits. We are delighted to present the Distinguished Service Award to Vincent Rigucci." I really wish we didn't have to wear our masks for all these pictures. Our next Distinguished Service Award goes to Diane Belanger of the Public Utilities Risk Management Association, otherwise known as PIRMA. NEPPA and PIRMA have a long history of shared values supporting public power industry. For nearly 20 years, Diane Belanger has been at the forefront of that support. Diane joined PIRMA as a risk manager in 2001, working tirelessly to provide creative insurance solutions and risk management tools to the public power community in the Northeast. In 2009, Diane was appointed by the PIRMA Board of Directors as Executive Director of PIRMA and Chief Executive Officer of PUMIC. Diane is the glue that holds the PIRMA organization together. She is the go-to person for small and large utilities alike when they have insurance-related questions. Diane offers technical guidance, reviews contracts, examines insurance programs, walks members through claims, and does so much more. Diane works with PIRMA's more than 36 public utility members to ensure that they have the insurance products in place to protect their people and their assets. As new exposures have emerged over the past decades, such as cyber liability, Diane has been on the forefront of developing customized insurance solutions that would better protect PIRMA's members. Diane's responsiveness to both members and non-members of PIRMA and PUMIC is invaluable, and she often is one of the first individuals called when an accident incident occurs. Knowing there is someone available with the knowledge and experience, along with willingness to support during these situations, is immeasurable. As Diane is retiring at the end of this year, we are happy to be able to honor her decades of distinguished service to the industry. Congratulations, Diane. Our next honoree is Ken Nolan. Ken Nolan is the General Manager of the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority, VEPSPA. Ken has invested more than 30 years supporting the needs of public power and possesses extensive knowledge in strategic planning, power supply, and innovative technologies. Ken serves on several utility and consumer-focused boards, including the Vermont Electric Power Company, Vermont Electric Power Producers, Hometown Connections, and the Consumer Federation of America. Ken started his career at VEPSPA in the early 1990s, and after several years left to take on the role of COO and Manager of Strategy and Innovation at Burlington Electric. In 2016, Ken returned to VEPSPA to become the General Manager. His nomination states, Ken's focus on preserving public power is unsurpassed. He has worked extensively with the Vermont Public Utilities Commission to ensure that smaller utilities have a voice in Montpelier. We consider Ken an example how a true joint action agency should be managed, with respect, honesty, and commitment to its members, and as a mentor and teacher to his staff. Ken serves on the NEPPA Advocacy and Reporting Committee and is an active participant during our legislative fly-ins. Ken also serves on the Velco Board of Directors. As you can see, Ken is well deserving of the Distinguished Service Award. Congratulations, Ken. And now I'd like to ask John Zamarangis to join me at the podium for the final recipient of this year's Distinguished Service Award.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. It's really my pleasure to be here. Paul Hinu has served public power with distinction for the past 13 years. He was previously employed at NSTAR as a service center manager in Walpole and Cambridge. We go back almost 30 years. It's kind of scary to be standing up here and say that. But, you know, I hired him in 2007 to come be the assistant manager based on his significant background. He's got labor relations background, understands the power systems, the grid, and has found his way into the renewable side of things, obviously, like everybody else has. So he was the assistant manager for me for about 4 or 5 years, rose to manager in 2012, was instrumental. One of the things we really wanted to do that Paul brought forward was to find a place for a new building and finally bring the administration and the operations folks together. They had been separate for a lot of years. So he was able to do that, which is great. He's also served NEPPA as a board of director, and he's been the chairman of the Advocacy and Reporting Committee the last several years. He's done a lot of close work with Elizabeth, who was on earlier, to kind of get us an agenda around our advocacy and reporting down in Washington. He's acted as the lead for the rally for the last several years. And this year, or a couple of years ago, we decided through Paul's kind of prodding, I guess, to go down a second time in September. It's an excellent thing for us to be able to go down there more than once. You can't just show up once. So it was a pretty good idea to get us down there more than once. It's been successful. It's focused when we go in September. And that was under Paul's leadership. He also had a hand recently, and Bonnie mentioned it in her comments, with the resolutions process that allow us to adopt, you know, what we might want to really drive or what it's important for NEPPA. So we've been going through that. So with that, I'm very, very proud to call him my friend for a long time, to honor Paul with the Distinguished Service Award.
Yep.
John, I have a few prepared remarks. Okay.
That wouldn't
Page
surprise me either.
25, 24. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you so much, everybody.
This is going to go down in history as the most unique photo.
No kidding.
We're all social distancing. We are.
Great, thank you so much.
Are you sure that's all? Wait a minute. It's either that or you're mistake. He's robbing a bank.
I love this picture of Paul and Bill, and I'm sorry that Bill could not be here today, but hopefully he's watching from his office and can see this nice picture of him. I would like to call up Elizabeth Daly, who is our Director of Finance and Administration, to present NEPPA's current financial report and 2021 budget. We will be voting on this in a little while, so Elizabeth, come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Although the current year has been a challenge, NEPPA has remained in a good financial place. NEPPA was able to create and conduct virtual at your site training via Zoom. That and our partnership with JJ Keller allowed us to continue to provide training even when we could not host events or send trainers on the road. In the past few months, we have been able to resume more of our regular operations. As of the end of September, our net loss before investment return is $88,165. We budgeted for a loss of $237,193 through the third quarter. The loss after investments is $47,005. We anticipate that we are on track to avoid the loss that was projected in the 2020 budget. Now let's take a look at the 2021 proposed budget. A copy should be on your screen. As you can see, the budget anticipates $2,759,976 in income and $2,746,555 in expenses for next year. This will leave us with a modest net income of $13,418. I would like to point out just a few things in the proposed budget. The due structure has been changed to include affiliate members in the annual increases that utility members are currently subject to. That increase will be determined by the Northeast Regional Consumer Price Index and is currently estimated to be 1% for 2021. Even though this year has been a challenge, we have had good participation in the programs we have been able to run. The 2021 proposed budget anticipates that we will not be canceling or postponing programs. We will work with the trainers or presenters to move the program to a virtual environment if needed. Many of our fall programs have been presented both in person and virtually. There are modest price increases in the education and training programs for 2021. The budget also includes a number of capital investments as prescribed by the strategic plan, including construction of an underground bunker/system, expanding the training pole yard, and updating our virtual/video training platform. In addition, this budget once again includes an additional $20,000 to carry out the strategic plan. Now I will turn the podium over to Justin.
Let me just get my bearings real quick. So I just want to reinforce that before we get started with this, so one person from each active membership or utility is eligible to vote. But at this time, I'll look for a motion to approve the 2021 NEPPA budget. Mr. Lawler from Littleton has made a motion. At this time, I'll ask to see if there's any further discussion on the 2021 budget. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Could I get a second, please?
I'll second Patty Richards.
Thank you, Patty, and Mr. Cloutier did as well. So at this time, I'll ask to see if there's any further discussions before calling for a vote. Hearing nothing. They're all off on mute. Thank you. This is all new to me too, this whole virtual thing. But so at this time, everyone should be off mute. One person from an active membership system or utility. So I'll ask for all in favor.
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? And with that, the ayes have it, and the 2021 budget is approved.
I'm gonna go back to the tape and see that.
There's a tie between Patty and, Mike. Oh, it's Mike.
Mike was in all that.
This is a competitive group.
Fortunately, I corrected them. Because we were trying to discuss a motion that had nothing. I appreciate that.
We all work together as a team up here. Welcome back. So thank you to the Finance Committee for all the hard work you do to get the budget ready with Elizabeth. It is really great to have that support. Next up, we have two recipients for our Special Recognition Award, given for a special accomplishment in advancing the interests of public power. Our first recipient is Craig Spinelli from the Belmont Municipal Light Department. In 2020, Craig Spinelli had a vision that has the potential to transform how outages are presented to customers. Under Craig's leadership, Belmont Light enacted a major update to its interactive and up-to-the-minute outage map through DataCapable's utility-social platform, which enables customers to report and track power outages in real time. The new updates provide useful tools to both customers and Belmont Light staff to report, track, and even diagnose an outage. The new updates include heat map functionality that intelligently gathers, groups, and analyzes customer reports as they come in, and automatically reports out to customers a color-coded predictive outage area based on the volume of reports received. Belmont Light envisions the new heat map as an outage management system light, a means to instantly reach customers when the power goes out, especially during times when customer service and communication staff are not available to answer questions or report right away. The concept is simple, but for utilities across the country, the ability to leverage validated customer reports of outages as predicted events, heat map those outages, and provide a real-time feedback loop on outage intelligence is a game changer. Craig is driving innovation to enhance the role of operations and customer engagement in new and creative ways by leveraging cloud-based tools, which is helping Belmont Light better prepare for the future. We congratulate Craig on his leadership, and we are happy to honor him with the Special Recognition Award. Our second recipient is Greg Sherman and the Holton Water Company. There are few people in the industry who would have the patience and perseverance to see an 8-year project through to fruition. Enter Greg Sherman, General Manager of the Holton Water Company. The electric division recently completed a new direct transmission line and associated substation additions, connecting the Holton Water Company electric system to New Brunswick Power. The project required obtaining numerous permits on both sides of the border, including permits from the state of Maine, the US federal government, the province of New Brunswick, and the Canadian federal government. No small feat. And it took 8 years to complete. Holton Water Company General Manager Greg Sherman estimates the completion of the project will result in $1.5 million in annual savings to its customers, who can expect to see about $100 per year savings on their electric bills. The shorter transmission line and the configuration of 2 transmission paths should improve the reliability. Sherman also credits his entire team with making this happen, especially John Clark, who began the project all those years ago. And we are delighted to recognize Greg Sherman and the Holton Water Company for their incredible achievement with the NEPPA Special Recognition Award. Congratulations, Holton Water Company and Greg. Our next award is our Outstanding Affiliate Member. This award is given in honor of the contributions to NEPPA's programs and services made by an affiliate member. This year, the award goes to Shamrock Power Sales. In addition to their incredible focus on safety and the tremendous service they provide to our industry, Shamrock has consistently supported our events, through sponsorship and donations of products and in-person attendance. They provide input and expertise on our line worker rodeos and our apprentice rodeos, which are key events for NEPPA. They've assisted in raising funding for our benevolent fund through their generous donation of raffle prizes and are all around nice people to work with. Congratulations to Shamrock Power Sales as they received the 2020 Outstanding Affiliate Award. We are waiting for Joy Ditto from the American Public Power Association to join us. So we are going to take a 2-minute bio break for those who may need to attend to their phones or whatever. And we'll be back with you just in a couple of minutes. Oh, we know when she's coming on. She's on. He actually secured the land where the substation is.
Hey, Bonnie, can you hear me? Okay. Is it loud enough?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad.
So give it a couple minutes and people are still probably.
Okay, sounds good.
Ready? Okay, welcome back. And it is now my distinct privilege to introduce to you Joy Ditto. Joy became the president and CEO of the American Public Power Association on January 13th, 2020. Prior to that, she was the president and CEO of the Utilities Technology Council, a global trade association representing electric, gas, and water utilities on their mission-critical information and communications technologies. Before joining UTC, Joy was the American Public Power Association for 15 years, rounding out her tenure as the Senior Vice President for Legislative and Political Affairs. She has additionally served 7 years on Capitol Hill as a legislative assistant. As a self-termed Marine Corps brat, Joy learned early that relationships are the key to success and are the willingness to work hard and an ability to see both the forest and the trees. Joy is a graduate of Vanderbilt University with a BA in history and a minor in political science, and has received an executive certification in nonprofit management from Georgetown University. Welcome, Joy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you.
Awesome. And I know the lighting's not great, but hopefully you can see me just fine as well. Well, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for kind of making an adjustment to your schedule. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do this live with you because I had another event around the same time as the original schedule. So thank you for kind of making accommodations and allowing me to be live, meaning live on Zoom at least. And I do look forward to hopefully being able to see you guys in 2021, either at NEPPA's event or at APPA's events, as well as we look to plan for that. But in the COVID situation we're in, I appreciate being able to speak to you just for a few minutes about some things we're up to and a little bit about COVID response. I don't know if we'll have much time for questions, but certainly if I say anything that you want to follow up with me on, you have my contact information, or Bonnie does, so please feel free to do that at any time. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about APPA first. For those of you who aren't as familiar with who we are and what we do, as you know, there are at least 2,000 public power utilities nationwide in 49 states and in 4 territories. The state we're missing is Hawaii, but APPA actually has 1,435 direct members of those 2,000. Others that are not members of APPA are often members of folks like NEPPA, of other joint action agencies or regional associations or state associations. But we do feel that we represent the interests of all of those 2,000 members. Of the 2,000 public power utilities in the country, half of them serve less than 5,000 meters. We do have a number of large cities, but that's really the exception rather than the rule for us. And certainly in New England, you fit more of the mode of the smaller utility footprint as well. At APPA proper, we have our offices in Crystal City, which is part of Arlington, Virginia. We are right across from Reagan National Airport, and we have over 60 staff, primarily focused on advocacy, technical services, technical and engineering services, benchmarking, and also offering meetings and trainings, and now more in a virtual environment for the last year. So our vision at APPA is to shape the future of public power to drive a new era of community-owned electric service. And our mission or purpose is to partner with members to promote public power, helping community-owned utilities deliver superior services through joint advocacy, education, and collaboration. So enough about APPA. Next, I want to just talk about just NEPPA really briefly has 2 actually members on our board of directors. There are 35 board members from across the country, and it's a big board, but we manage that by also having an executive committee. And one of your NEPPA members, Nick Lawler of Littleton, is on our executive committee, and another one of your members, Ellen Burt of Stowe in Vermont, is on our board. So you guys have good representation on the board at this moment, and we appreciate both Nick and Ellen's contributions. So I'm just going to kind of jump in right now with the limited time we have and talk about, kind of our history and how we've weathered sort of previous storms. So as we lead into a bit of a discussion about COVID-19, I want to just note that many of you all are in utilities that are over 100 years old, as are many of our broader membership. So you know that there have been many challenges in that 100+ years that our members have faced. World Wars I and II, other pandemics like the Spanish flu, but also there were 2 other major flus to hit our country in the 50s and 60s. Look them up, the Asian flu and the Hong Kong flu, as well as, you know, I was just reading a history book, listening to a history book on audiobook that noted that prior to the eradication of the smallpox virus in 1980, from 1900 to 1980, in those 80 years worldwide, the smallpox killed 300 to 500 million people worldwide. So we have certainly seen great, unfortunately, great impacts from viruses in the past as well. We've seen economic recessions and the Great Depression. We've seen other more modern issues like the lead up to Y2K. As many of you guys remember, we had a lot of concerns about how our systems would operate when that digital change happened. Luckily, we were able to manage that very well. We've seen horrible terrorist attacks like 9/11, and then other kind of regular natural disasters and hurricanes even this year. And now to COVID-19. So while we have seen these in the past, I think in the recent past, we haven't, except to the degree that we have, as you all know, prepared for other potential pandemics like SARS in recent history that really haven't come to fruition. So many of you all, if not all of you, have pandemic plans and have had them in place for a while. I know that we exercise at the national level, we exercise things like pandemics, which are known, as you know, as high impact, low frequency events. So early on, actually in the year, a number of our members were already looking at what was going on in China and starting to bring out their pandemic plans back even in January. And in February, APPA's Mutual Aid Working Group started meeting, and that group is really was really formed to help with storm response. But we did start convening that group even in February, and even as we had our legislative rally in late February, we did discuss the pandemic with the board at that point. But no one really knew until March that the significance the pandemic would take and how we would have to really respond so significantly to COVID-19. So at that point in March, we started hosting frequent webinars that hopefully you all participated in with lessons learned, particularly from some of our members in the then hotspots, New York, Washington State, but also just providing forums for our members to ask questions, to discuss how they were preparing for the pandemic on the ground and some issues that they were starting to face in terms of that preparation. So we held those webinars very frequently early on in the pandemic, and then we started expanding as well our sort of communications beyond the webinars. We created a COVID-19 listserv, a CEO or utility director level listserv as well. We had communications with Joint Action Agency heads and a number of other forums to discuss response. In addition, APPA is part of a group, and a number of our members participate in a group that is called the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council, or ESCC, which is a bit of a handful or a mouthful to say, I apologize. But that group was actually formed after 9/11. There was a recognition by the federal government that in the event of a terrorist or attack or other nefarious situation, the vast majority of the critical infrastructure in the country is not controlled by the federal government. It's controlled by the private sector, or in our case, state and local governments. So they recognized that there needed to be a pathway for those critical infrastructure providers to talk to the federal government without it being in the public view, so that nefarious actors could take advantage of that. So there was established, first kind of contemplated in the 2002 Homeland Security Act, and then subsequently kind of fleshed out in various presidential policy directives. There was a forum that these critical infrastructure sectors could create, called sector coordinating councils, where you could bring the whole sector together with your sector specific agency and others in the federal government. In the case of the energy sector, there are 2 subsectors, oil and gas and electricity. So we are the Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council. And our sector specific agency is the Department of Energy. So we formed a group actually back in, the 2000s that was comprised of 3 IOU CEOs, 1 public power CEO, and 1 co-op CEO that would meet periodically with the Department of Energy. But in about, 9 years ago, we decided the electricity trades, APPA, the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, NRECA, and the Edison Electric Institute, EEI, decided that it would be important to expand that group, bring in more CEOs, also have more of a role for the trade associations. And we did that back, it was officially done in 2013, but it was contemplated in a couple of years before that. So that group has met throughout those years with our federal government partners to discuss things like cybersecurity, like other potential threats from electromagnetic pulse, which would be caused by a high-level nuclear device detonation. Things like that, we get briefed in a classified way on certain things, but in an unclassified way, we can push out information to the industry as an industry, as opposed to individual groups of the industry. So the ESCC is a well-established entity, again, with this expanded footprint that has very good engagement from the industry. And so when the pandemic started to really rise to the level it is now in March, we convened multiple meetings and twice a week calls with our federal government partners. And in those meetings, we heard from the CDC and from the Health and Human Services Department about the status of the pandemic and what we could help, do to respond. In those conversations, we identified early on that there were several areas of need for our industry that we were kind of figuring out we needed to work through. And we created a tiger team via the ESCC of subject matter experts, and then sort of sub teams on that tiger team that were dealing with some of these issues that we identified. And 85 public power representatives participated in that tiger team response. And I also should say Jackie Crowley is one of our ESCC CEO representatives who has been very helpful in that forum as well. So these 85 public power and then other investor-owned utility and co-op subject matter experts pulled apart these issues. And those issues were essentially access to quarantined areas. As you know, early on, that was an issue. Things like access to PPE, personal protective equipment, access to testing. We also wanted to make sure we had good cross-sector communication. And then, later on, we identified things like contact tracing and now certainly the dissemination of a vaccine. So those were identified, and we created a resource guide through the ESCC that was updated 9 times. And then we now have an interim after action report that was also provided out, and we shared far and wide with our members and the rest of the industry. Because obviously we can't do an after action report until the pandemic is completed, but some of the lessons learned from our response, and I think the bottom line is we kept the lights on, and that is huge, especially as we've dealt with events like Tropical Storm Isaias and a huge, almost record-breaking storm season. We identified early on as well that we needed to be able to keep our people safe, control room operators, but also line workers safe in their critical environment. So we had a plan for responding to storms even early on. In Chattanooga, a tornado hit them in April, and we were able to bring in 120 crews to help them restore power, and to do so safely using protocols developed by the ESCC and communicated far and wide. So that was a really good indication of what we could do as an industry. And we were unfortunately had to put that into practice in responding to storms like Isaias and multiple hurricanes that hit the Gulf Coast. But whereby we, by all accounts, did not spread the virus. Not to say that no one had the virus or got it, but it was not a spreading event, certainly, because of the protocols that we were able to put in place. And that's very heartening. And I think in terms of lessons learned from this pandemic, first of all, if we come together as an industry, if we continue to share information and work together, we're going to be able to respond well. But one of the things that is a challenge that we need to continue to address is expanding our horizon of relationships. Bonnie talked about the importance of those and the importance I place on relationships. And one of the things we didn't do so well as an industry is regarding relationships with folks like the CDC, like HHS, because they didn't really understand the needs of our industry early on. And when they were putting out guidance about essential workers, we weren't on the list where we should have been. We should have been right in the sort of the second tier after kind of healthcare workers and other kind of frontline workers. We should have been right second. Initially, we were third tier, or not even, not even close to where we should have been. And that's just a lack of understanding that they were bringing about the critical nature of our work, which obviously we all know, and I don't need to convince you of. And that's something that we're working through with vaccine dissemination as well. We certainly don't think we should be the first or maybe even the second, but probably the third. And we just sent a letter out to that effect. The trade association heads did, to encouraging that to our state brethren, the governors groups. So that is a lesson learned, and that's something that I think we have to do a better job of expanding our horizons, but also making sure, particularly as response is pushed down to the state level, that we're maintaining those very strong relationships at the state level, which I think our members do quite well. But we did sometimes have to, as APPA, help folks, some of our members in certain states, bridge the gap with their governor's offices and with the federal government to clarify really the important nature of our work as we were facing some of these barriers. Certainly there's a supply chain issue we still need to address, and I'm hoping that we'll be okay as we see this uptick in cases, but we also need to make sure our supply chain is secure and there's enough to go around, particularly with PPE and testing for any future pandemic as well once we're through this. There are a lot of other things I could hit on right now, but suffice to say that we are also clearly looking forward as we work with a new Biden administration as to a variety of things that we will need to work with them on, including direct assistance for public power utilities who are facing hardships, particularly from moratoria on shutoffs. I'm sure you'll hear a lot from Elizabeth Whitney about some of the challenges and opportunities that we'll face with the new administration and with the new Congress, assuming that the Republicans retain the Senate. We don't have as many changes there, but we still have relationships to build and some changes in leadership. Certainly, we're very aware of that. We're working with our members, and we will continue to work with Bonnie and you all on particularly issues around climate change and how the administration might tackle that. Around cybersecurity, that's definitely a bipartisan issue, and grid security as well. We just received a $6 million grant from DOE to help further educate and further help our members develop protocols around maintaining cybersecurity on their operational technologies. So I look forward to building that program out. It's a very new grant, so we're still working through a lot of the details. But otherwise, just thank you for the time to talk to you today and share a little bit about what we've been doing on COVID response and what we'll continue to do. And again, my door is open if you have any questions for me. So with that, Bonnie, back to you.
Thanks so much, Joy. That was great, very informative. We love having you with us. Thank you for joining us live. And it is great to see you and have your voice to our conversation. Really delighted. Thanks for being here.
All right, take care. Thanks.
So next up are the NEPPA Service Awards. The NEPPA Service Award is given for a significant contribution to the association. Each of this year's recipients are passionate about the work of NEPPA and our community at large. Our first recipient is John Driscoll, General Manager of Templeton Municipal Light and Water Plant. John Driscoll faithfully served as a member of the Board of Directors for 4 years, offering insight and experience to the organization. He served several terms on the Finance Committee, helping to develop our annual budget and guiding our investment strategy. While that's not always glamorous work, it is very important to the healthy functioning of our organization. And although John has recently stepped down from the board, he still maintains an active interest in the association's education and training programs. We thank John for his dedicated service, and we are pleased to honor him with the NEPPA Service Award. The next recipient of the NEPPA Service Award is Patty Richards, General Manager of Washington Electric Co-op. No matter how busy she is, Patty Richards always has time to help NEPPA grow and thrive. Patty has served on NEPPA's executive committee with distinction over the past few years. She recently ascended to NEPPA's first vice president and is chair of the executive committee. In addition to these impressive leadership roles, she also serves as chair of the member value committee. Her exemplary vision in this role has produced an increased awareness and monetary growth in NEPPA's benevolent fund. This is an important accomplishment which has certainly helped ensure that the fund will be available whenever it is needed. Patty's steadfast dedication to NEPPA makes her a very deserving recipient of the NEPPA Service Award. Thank you, Patty. And our final honoree for a NEPPA Service Award is Justin Cannell from Energy New England. Nobody has impacted the affairs of NEPPA more than Justin Cannell over the past year. As chair of the executive committee, chair of the educational development committee, chair of the annual conference subcommittee, member of the mutual aid committee, and member of the conference oversight and planning committee, Justin was instrumental in moving forward the vision and goals of the NEPPA board. His commitment to developing the strategic plan helped shape the future of NEPPA for years to come, and he was equally involved as a member of this year's pump class. This summer, Justin became the president of the association after serving a 2-year term as vice president. Justin is the consummate volunteer, and his investment of time and talent are to NEPPA's benefit. In addition to all that he does for NEPPA, Justin has recently transitioned from his role at CMIC to become Senior Executive Vice President, Finance and Risk Officer at Energy New England. And if that wasn't keeping him busy enough, his family went from this to this. Justin and Kara took on their biggest supporting roles to date as parents to newborn baby Jack, and we wish him well in that role. Our hats are off to Justin, and we are delighted to present him with the NEPPA Service Award. Justin, would you come up?
We do like a little elbow bump. Feeling the love. No, thank you.
Congratulations.
That's a terrible picture, by the way, with the light shining.
Who's that in the background?
No.
She's all upset.
No, the live picture you just took with the.
Yeah, we're going to do some photos after. Some photos, yeah. So we'll have some real photos.
Plus you were in my way, like nobody can see you.
He's just upset because we're blocking him. All right. And now for the grand finale, NEPPA's highest honor, the Person of the Year Award. This award recognizes one individual for sustained outstanding service and contributions to NEPPA and public power. It'd be hard to imagine anyone who is more deserving of the Person of the Year Award than this year's recipient. This individual has probably done more to grow NEPPA's reputation and stature throughout the Northeast region than any other individual. For many people, including me, this man defines all that NEPPA stands for. His passion for safety, his love of the industry are legendary. He's forthright and direct, kind and caring, all wrapped up into one person. He is a gem. By now you know that I am talking about Steve Sokobi. Steve started his career in 1971 as a line worker for the Houghton Water Company. And he rose to the role of superintendent in 1984. It was there that Steve began a 23-year mission to shape and teach line workers. Retiring from Holton in 2007, he stayed on as a consultant, and as you saw from the earlier pictures, continues to keep in touch with his former colleagues. For those of you who know him, when Steve is your friend, you have a friend for life. In January of 2010, Steve began to make an even bigger contribution to public power by joining NEPPA as the Director of Training. For the past 10 years, Steve has guided NEPPA's training and education, formalizing our apprentice line worker program, teaching the technical aspects of metering and substation, and developing and providing thousands of hours of safety training in all aspects of utility work. Throughout that time, he has mentored hundreds of line workers, supervisors, engineers, and technicians, all with grace and humility and good humor. Steve's knowledge of the industry is encyclopedic, and his teaching style engaging. He's trusted as the go-to person because if on the rare occasion he doesn't know the answer to something, he will research it and find it out. Steve is both admired and respected by his colleagues, and his peers love him. And he inspires his students to be their best because he always gives his best. This year, when COVID-19 made it impossible to train in person, Steve willingly adapted his training to virtual presentations. No complaints, he just did it. This is the essence of Steve. He does whatever it takes to get the job done and done right. Steve will be retiring as the Director of Technical Training this year, but fear not, he will continue to train with NEPPA for many years to come. He'll just not be here on a full-time basis. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Steve's wife, Ann. Steve has made the 500-mile round-trip journey to his home in Maine every weekend for the past 10 years. Without Ann's steadfast support and patience, it indeed would have been impossible to make this arrangement work. Steve and Ann are certainly among the rarest of couples. You have heard that it is said, you reap what you sow. And in the case of Steve Jacoby, that's a very good thing indeed. His entire career has been about preparation and practice and patience. Like the farmer in the parable, Steve planted his wisdom deeply, nurtured his students thoughtfully, and practiced the principles of safety every day, weeding out those bad habits. And that is fortunate indeed for his students and for all of us, because in so doing, Steve has ensured that NEPPA and all of the workers he worked with will reap the rewards of his labor for many years to come. Steve, from the bottom of our heart, we thank you. Before Steve comes up to the podium, we have a brief video tribute that we would like to share, if we can make the technology work. What I love about Steve Jacoby, so many things to name. But I will say this, what makes him really unique is that he has the heart of a servant, and he has the soul of an encourager, and he has the mind of a commander. And that makes him perfect. He's the quintessential teacher because of that. And it also makes him a valued friend and a trusted advisor, and I will miss our long chats every day.
Steve Jacoby is a one-of-a-kind. He was definitely someone that was dropped from another planet, I think.
about Steve?
His heart, he cares, his passion, his ability to learn anything, and then be able to teach that to us as public power workers.
Steve is truly a lineman's lineman. He's not only been there and done it, but he's instructing it and teaching it for decades to come. And that's just an incredible gift from Steve.
It's been a great privilege to have had the opportunity to work and learn from Steve Jacoby. No one individual has embraced, embodied, and lived the public power mission quite like Steve. And no one has affected our region and us more than Steve has over the last 50 years. Not only has Steve made us more intelligent and skilled public power workers, but also more importantly, Steve has made us better people. Thanks, Steve.
If all of our board members could come up, we're going to present Steve with the Person of the Year award. Steve? Try to stay a little bit closer.
I'm just gonna stay in the back.
Steve? Right here?
Yeah, you here right there.
We have all of us well earned. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm very touched. And obviously I married that.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you really married up. No, I think you picked with her.
Somebody said you dropped from another planet. I was gonna say, yes, you did.
Thank you very much. I really, really do appreciate it.
I know that Steve is very humble and he does not like a lot of accolades and he does not like to be the center of attention unless he's teaching. Then you better be the center of attention. So thank you for coming up to receive this. We just love you, Steve.
Thank you very much.
We've had a lot of communication with Ann. So that is all we have for our presentations today. Thank you for joining us and zooming in with us and being here in person. As we close out our annual membership meeting, I wish you a wonderful holiday season and a healthy and prosperous new year. And it's my fervent hope that next year we'll be able to see you all in person live. Have a great day.
Thank you, Bonnie.